Have you ever felt like something was missing, even when you seem to have it all? For one billionaire, this feeling came crashing down during a seemingly ordinary dinner at an upscale New York City restaurant. What started as a frustrating dining experience soon led him on an unexpected journey. A journey that would not only change his life but also rewrite the rules of success, compassion, and inspiration. In a twist of fate, he stumbled upon a modest home-style restaurant where a single meal and the warmth of a waitress's care reignited something he hadn't felt in years: genuine connection. What he discovered wasn't just about food. It was about empathy, the kind that lingers far longer than the most exquisite meal ever could. And then, with an audacious offer, he set into motion a story that would transform a small, humble eatery into a culinary empire, and perhaps find the emotional story he'd been searching for all along. This isn't just a tale of wealth meeting simplicity. It's a story about rediscovering purpose, the power of compassion, and how one extraordinary woman inspired a billionaire to dream again. Are you ready to dive into this remarkable journey where heart and ambition collide? Keep watching, because this is one story you won't forget. The billionaire entered the renowned restaurant with high expectations, as anyone might when visiting a place hailed as the epitome of fine dining. But what awaited him was a disheartening cocktail of bland flavors and indifferent service. For someone accustomed to perfection, this experience was more than a letdown. It was an affront to his belief in excellence. The waiter's lack of attention, coupled with a dish that lacked soul, left a bitter aftertaste that lingered far longer than the overpriced wine he reluctantly sipped. It wasn't just a bad meal. It was a moment of stark clarity. Every detail of the evening seemed to clash with the image of sophistication the restaurant projected. The clinking of silverware on plates felt hollow as the dishes themselves arrived lukewarm and poorly seasoned. The billionaire, usually a man of measured composure, found himself wondering how something so celebrated could lack the heart he craved in every experience. It wasn't just food he was missing. It was a connection, a sense of care that transformed meals into memories. For him, this wasn't merely a failure of taste, but a failure of empathy. What truly stung was the indifference. Even after voicing his concerns, the staff's polished smiles masked an underlying apathy. He couldn't shake the thought. How could a place so focused on appearances forget the essence of hospitality? Compassion and genuine care weren't just absent, they felt deliberately ignored. For someone who built his empire on precision and understanding customer needs, the experience was a glaring contradiction to his ideals. It wasn't just a restaurant that had failed him. It was a system that seemed out of touch. The frustration didn't end when he walked out the door. As he climbed into his sleek black car, the memory of that meal gnawed at him. He wasn't just upset about wasted money. He felt cheated out of an experience that should have nourished both body and soul. The flashing lights of New York City passed by as his thoughts lingered on what made dining truly extraordinary. Good food, he mused, wasn't just about ingredients. It was about inspiration and the invisible thread of empathy woven into every bite. It wasn't the first time he'd been let down by luxury, but this time felt personal. The contrast between the restaurant's opulent decor and its lackluster execution became a metaphor he couldn't ignore. He began to wonder if there was a way to redefine excellence in an industry that seemed to have lost its way. The seeds of an idea began to take root. What if a dining experience could combine precision with compassion, bringing back the emotional story behind food? As the night stretched on, he couldn't let go of the thought. Somewhere in the bustling chaos of the city, there had to be a place that embodied what he longed for. Simplicity with soul, perfection without pretense. He began to imagine a space where every detail, from the service to the seasoning, was crafted with care. The idea wasn't just ambitious. It was a challenge he felt compelled to pursue. After all, excellence wasn't just about impressing others. It was about inspiring them. The disappointment began to morph into determination. If no one else could create the experience he envisioned, perhaps it was time for him to step in. As the car rolled to a stop outside his penthouse, he glanced back at the glittering skyline, his mind already racing. There had to be a restaurant out there, hidden in the city's countless streets, where everything he sought already existed, just waiting to be discovered. The billionaire's search for something authentic began the very next morning as he scrolled through countless online reviews and recommendations. Most places promised culinary perfection, but he was no longer convinced by glossy photos and 5-star ratings. He wanted something real, a place where food wasn't just a product but an emotional story on a plate. His driver navigated the busy streets of New York until, almost by accident, they stumbled upon a modest home-style restaurant tucked between 2 towering office buildings. Stepping inside, the billionaire was immediately struck by how different it felt. The walls, adorned with handwritten thank you notes from customers, radiated warmth. There was no pretentious menu, no overly rehearsed staff. Instead, the place was alive with the sound of clinking dishes, hearty laughter, and the aroma of freshly baked bread. He could feel the difference. It wasn't about luxury here. It was about heart. For the first time in years, he felt a spark of hope. The waitress who greeted him wasn't just friendly. She was radiant with genuine warmth. Her smile wasn't practiced. It was effortless, the kind that made you feel seen and welcome. She handed him the menu, but her recommendation of the house special caught his attention. "You won't regret it," she said with a wink. There was something infectious about her confidence, and despite his usual reservations, he decided to trust her judgment. What followed was nothing short of transformative. The dish arrived, and with the first bite, the billionaire was stunned. The flavors were perfectly balanced, each ingredient singing in harmony. It wasn't just good, it was a revelation. This was food made with passion and precision, the kind of meal that could make even the busiest person pause and savor the moment. He couldn't remember the last time something as simple as a plate of food felt so profoundly satisfying. It wasn't just a meal, it was an experience crafted with empathy. As he ate, he watched the waitress effortlessly move between tables, chatting with customers as if they were old friends. He noticed how she listened intently, her presence making every diner feel valued. There was no rush, no robotic repetition, just pure, unfiltered compassion. It was as if she understood that good food and good service weren't separate, they were intertwined. For the first time in years, he felt like a guest, not just a customer. When she returned to check on him, he couldn't help but ask about the recipe. She laughed softly, brushing off the compliment with modesty. "It's just a little of this and that," she said, but he knew better. This wasn't just skill, it was inspiration at work. She didn't just cook, she poured her heart into every dish. He felt a strange sense of admiration, not just for the food but for the person behind it, a rare mix of talent and humility he had long stopped expecting to find. As the meal came to an end, the billionaire leaned back, marveling at how something so unassuming could feel so extraordinary. He looked around the restaurant, taking in the simplicity and charm. This wasn't just a place to eat, it was a haven. And yet, he couldn't help but wonder how long such a gem could survive in a city obsessed with flash and trendiness. For the first time in years, he felt not just inspired, but called to action. The billionaire left the restaurant that evening with a sense of purpose that had been missing for years. His mind raced as he considered the potential of what he had just experienced. That little restaurant, unassuming and tucked away, held something that countless high-end establishments lacked: authenticity and soul. As he stared at the city lights from his penthouse window later that night, he began crafting a plan. One that would honor the essence of that place while elevating it to unimaginable heights. By morning, he had drafted a letter, every word carefully chosen to reflect his vision. He wanted to buy the restaurant, yes, but not to change it. No, this was different. He didn't want to strip away what made it special. He wanted to amplify it. The condition, however, was non-negotiable. The waitress, who had so effortlessly captivated his admiration, had to stay. She was the heart of that space, the invisible thread that held it all together, and he knew the restaurant couldn't thrive without her. As he returned to the Homestyle restaurant, he felt an unusual sense of nervousness. This wasn't just a business deal. It was deeply personal. The waitress greeted him with the same warm smile, unaware of the life-changing proposal he carried. He asked for her name, Maria, and over another plate of the house special, he tried to articulate what he saw in her work. It wasn't just about cooking, he explained. It was about compassion, the way she created an emotional story with every plate she served. When the moment felt right, he handed her the envelope. Inside was a check for $10 million and a letter outlining his vision. Maria's eyes widened as she read, her expression shifting from disbelief to cautious curiosity. The deal was simple but extraordinary. Half the money would be hers outright, a reward for her undeniable talent and dedication. The other half was to be invested in the restaurant, to renovate, expand, and transform it into the city's most beloved home-style dining destination. Maria looked up, her voice trembling with emotion as she asked, "Why me?" He answered honestly, telling her how she had inspired him in ways he couldn't have imagined. It wasn't just about the food or the service, it was about the way she made people feel. Her empathy and dedication were rare, and he believed they deserved to be celebrated on a larger stage. For the first time in years, she felt truly seen, and though the offer was overwhelming, it also felt right. The thought of transforming her humble restaurant into something greater was both exhilarating and terrifying for Maria. She had poured her heart into every detail of the place, and the idea of sharing control with someone else was daunting. But as the billionaire spoke of his vision, she began to see the possibilities. This wasn't about losing what she had built. It was about preserving it, protecting it from the ever-changing tides of the city, and giving it the chance to flourish. After hours of conversation, Maria finally smiled and said, "I'll think about it." The billionaire nodded, respecting her need for time. As he walked out, he left her with one final thought. "I'm not offering to change what you've built. I'm offering to help the world see what you've already created." With that, he disappeared into the bustling streets, leaving Maria to weigh the decision that would change both of their lives forever. The decision didn't come easily for Maria. For days, she pored over the billionaire's letter, running her fingers across the bold numbers on the check. It wasn't just the money, it was the vision he had painted. The idea of transforming her humble restaurant into a culinary landmark was exhilarating, but it also felt like stepping into uncharted waters. She couldn't help but wonder, would the heart and compassion she poured into every detail survive such a massive change? When Maria finally agreed to the proposal, the billionaire wasted no time. The restaurant became a flurry of activity as architects, designers, and contractors brought his vision to life. Yet, at the heart of every decision was Maria. She insisted that the soul of the restaurant, the handwritten notes on the wall, the rustic charm of the decor, remained untouched. It wasn't just a restaurant to her. It was a sanctuary, a place that told an emotional story with every meal served. The billionaire, too, was deeply involved, a stark contrast to the detached persona Maria had initially imagined. He attended every meeting, asked thoughtful questions, and made it clear that Maria's voice was not just valued, it was essential. Slowly, Maria began to see him not as an outsider but as a partner. His drive for excellence complemented her compassion, and together they struck a balance that felt almost magical. As the renovations progressed, the two began to dream bigger. Maria proposed ideas she had once dismissed as impossible. A community kitchen to teach cooking skills, a garden to grow fresh ingredients, and a warm, welcoming space for families to gather. The billionaire, inspired by her vision, didn't just approve. He expanded on it, pushing for a network of partnerships that would ensure the restaurant became a pillar of the community. Every step of the way, they faced challenges. Delays in construction, disagreements over branding, and moments of doubt tested their resolve. But through it all, their shared belief in the power of empathy and inspiration kept them moving forward. The billionaire marveled at Maria's ability to connect with people, whether it was a stressed contractor or a curious passerby peeking into the transformed space. She didn't just manage the project, she infused it with life. As the opening day approached, the restaurant stood as a testament to their collaboration. The modest eatery Maria had nurtured was now a stunning yet unpretentious space, ready to welcome a new wave of guests. But for Maria, the real victory was that it still felt like home. The handwritten notes remained on the walls, the house special was still the centerpiece of the menu, and every corner of the restaurant carried her unmistakable touch. Despite the long hours and countless decisions, Maria and the billionaire found moments of quiet joy in their work. Late one night, As they sat together in the newly renovated dining room, Maria smiled and said, "I never thought I'd share this place with anyone." The billionaire, holding a steaming cup of coffee, replied, "You're not sharing it. You're leading it." In that moment, she realized this wasn't just an investment in a dream. It was the beginning of something far greater than either of them had imagined. The grand opening of the newly transformed restaurant was nothing short of magical. Guests from all walks of life filled the space, their laughter and conversations blending with the warm, inviting atmosphere Maria had worked so hard to preserve. The billionaire stood in the background, watching as Maria greeted every customer with the same radiant smile that had captivated him on his first visit. The restaurant was no longer just a place to eat. It was a testament to compassion and the power of shared dreams. Word spread quickly about the revitalized eatery. Reviews hailed it as a rare gem in the heart of the city, praising not only the impeccable food, but also the unique experience it offered. Guests spoke of feeling truly seen and valued, something Maria had made her mission to ensure. The billionaire often joked that people didn't just come for the food. They came for Maria's empathy, which seemed to flow as freely as the house special. Together, they had created a space where inspiration thrived, both in the kitchen and in the dining room. The restaurant's success also opened new doors for Maria. She found herself in meetings she never imagined, discussing partnerships, expansion plans, and even community initiatives. But through it all, she never lost sight of what mattered most: the emotional story behind every meal. She continued to cook with the same passion and dedication that had built her reputation, reminding everyone around her that success was rooted in heart, not just ambition. The billionaire, too, was transformed by the journey. Once consumed by the fast-paced world of high-stakes deals, he found a new sense of fulfillment in their collaboration. He marveled at the simplicity of Maria's philosophy: treat people with kindness, and the rest will follow. It was a lesson he carried not only into the restaurant, but also into his broader business ventures, inspiring others to prioritize empathy and connection over cold efficiency. Despite their growing success, Maria and the billionaire remained grounded. They often spent evenings reflecting on how far they had come, sharing stories of the challenges they had faced and the people they had met along the way. One evening, as they sat in the restaurant's cozy corner booth, Maria looked around and said, "It feels like more than a restaurant now. It feels like a home for everyone who walks through that door." The billionaire nodded, knowing she had perfectly captured their shared vision. Their journey didn't end with the restaurant. The billionaire's resources and Maria's passion became the foundation for even greater dreams. They launched a program to provide culinary training for underprivileged youth, giving them a chance to build a future in the industry. They also created partnerships with local farmers, ensuring their ingredients were as fresh and ethical as possible. Every decision they made was guided by the same principles that had brought them together: compassion, empathy, and a belief in the transformative power of inspiration. The restaurant became a beacon of hope and community, but the most profound change was in their lives. Maria and the billionaire had found something far more valuable than financial success. They had found purpose, connection, and a partnership that made each day brighter. As they prepared to close the restaurant one evening, the billionaire turned to Maria and said, "This isn't just a new chapter. It's the story I didn't know I needed." Maria smiled, her heart full, and replied, "And we're just getting started."